You're listening to the audio portion of Workshop Wednesdays. Workshop Wednesdays is a free live discussion about topics affecting accountants, bookkeepers, and business owners. You can join the ABO group in Facebook to participate live Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Just search for ABBO in Facebook. This podcast is brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com, where you will learn, grow, and build a thriving bookkeeping practice. We have hundreds of lessons with almost every aspect of the industry. Start your free month today at Schoolofbookkeeping.com. Welcome to another Workshop Wednesday brought to you by Schoolofbookkeeping.com. You'll notice that Carrie's not here, but playing the part of Carrie today is Eric from Corpay. So we're finishing up, we're wrapping up with our series on digitizing your back office, and the folks at Corpay have joined us for this series, and today is the day we'll get to see what actually Corpay looks like, and have a little high level demo of what the platform looks like. So Eric, thanks for joining us here today, and we look forward to kind of chatting about what Corpay is. But before we do, we wanted to mention and thank everyone for we've crossed a threshold in YouTube subscribers. We managed to hit over 300. It was funny because we just hit 300 subscribers, and then somebody decided to unsubscribe, and we went back down to 299. So, but we're over that now. We're past that. So we're continuing to go. We appreciate you to doing that. If you're watching us on YouTube and you want to be alerted when we go live with another workshop, please do hit the subscribe button, and you'll get notified. So thank you for that. So Eric, so let's go ahead and share what you have to share. If you want to go into your presentation mode there, and I'll go ahead and activate the sharing here. Typically, we've discovered that when we start sharing and things like that, my voice goes crazy. But it's, we're pulling some bandwidth together, and the ones and zeros are matching up. But it should be looking good now. So if you can hear and see us, go ahead and put that in the chat that everything's a-okay with regards to the live stream here. But Eric, go ahead and walk us through a little bit about the Corpay platform and offering.
Yeah, no, awesome. I definitely can do that. And firstly, just want to be clear, I'm not taking Carrie's place. Some big shoes to fill there. So, I want to kind of stay in my own lane. But yeah, my name is Eric Harris Poindexter. I'm a senior account manager here at Corpay One, and I work directly with our accountants and bookkeepers to help them get set up and onboard onto our platform, but also in terms of ongoing account management and support, and just using this with their firm and their clients as well. So as Dan mentioned, we've been a part of this webinar series for the past few weeks talking about spend management in a few different aspects, but we wanted to take the time today to actually go through, our platform and show you how we kind of tie a lot of those points in together that we've been talking about the past few weeks. So in general, for us, we like to describe Corpay One as the complete spend management solution, or sort of the all-in-one solution for your firm or for your clients as well. What we mean by sort of the complete spend management is we have both the accounts payable side in Corpay One, so being able to capture and pay your business's bills, but also the expense management side, which allows you to capture and manage employee expense reimbursements, or to use our Corpay One MasterCard as a business credit card to more effectively control and manage your employee spend there.
Now, I don't want to necessarily, interrupt you there, but I am.
Yeah.
Because when you think about the all-in-one aspect, I think that's really where Corpay One is of great value, right? And there's another company out there that William, we'll just say it's William.
Yep.
But they had to acquire another company in order to kind of do what you're already doing, right?
Yep.
So they bought Divvy, right, to be able to have the expense management component of what they're already offering. But you're already occupying that lane, right, where you are that all-in-one
Yeah.
solution where the spend management, the cards, card management, and oh, by the way, you can pay your bills too.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, even most times with a lot of other platforms, we see that it's usually sort of one or the other, or even in a situation like you mentioned, where there's sort of an acquisition or a partnership, those platforms, at least initially, take some time to get them integrated, put together, et cetera. So for us, yeah, we've built our card and expense management solutions directly into the bill pay product from the very beginning. So it works very seamlessly, both on our side, but also with syncing all that information back into your accounting system like QuickBooks Online.
Great.
You know?
All right.
So just to go over some of the high level benefits that the both the accounting and bookkeeping firms are loving, but also clients are benefiting from using Corpay One and our complete solution here. So on the left hand side, we have our accounting and bookkeeping team, and the first one here is just the accurate OCR scanning and the bill and receipt image capture. Right, so we allow you to capture your bills and receipts digitally with our mobile app or other submission methods. We extract the data and the image and sync all that over into QuickBooks Online automatically, which tends to save a lot of time. We tend to see that there's usually someone doing that manually themselves. So we remove that task. We also allow you to create custom workflows to help to automate more complex approval processes. We know there are some systems out there that offer sort of basic approval processes, or a lot of times people have their own sort of in-house processes in place. Corpay allows you to expand on that to get much more customized and actually do those approvals based on certain scenarios. Things like certain dollar amounts or certain vendors can be treated differently. Um,
Yeah, it's almost like it's the um, it's the bank rules, or like if
yeah,
you're in QuickBooks Online, you can set up some of those automated bank rules to be able to auto categorize or auto read, auto name. You
yep,
can do the same thing with your accounts payable and accounts
yeah,
expense management side of things in your platform, which is I think a true game changer
yeah,
for someone that is looking to, in this case, digitize their back office, right?
yeah,
Save that time. Like when Carlos was on, he dedicated that Saturday to go through and pay his bills, right?
yep,
Where you don't have, you can have your Saturday free if you if you're using Corpay,
yeah.
essentially.
No, man, it's a lot more convenient. And again, there are some things that you can do sort of manually or even in QuickBooks or things to get a base level approval. But what we do is much more robust than that. And it's really what a lot of our customers love about us, particularly those who need more customized or expansive approval processes. So larger organizations, organizations like nonprofits, are also ones that really benefit and value our approval processes there. Um, but yeah, moving on, we have a two-way integration with QuickBooks Online and Zero as well as QuickBooks Desktop is an integration that we have in beta that we're working on. Um, Kind of an unintended benefit, but having a third-party system allows you to keep your clients out of the accounting system and tends to avoid some errors there. And again, just being able to manage everything in one platform. So both your clients' bill pay spend, employee expenses, all managed in one platform for all your clients. On the client side of things, it's going to be a bit more at the ground level, right? So they get the option of having multiple payment options to their vendors, whether that be ACH, check, or international options. Again, having everything in one place, having those approval processes that they can use amongst themselves, but also to collaborate with their bookkeepers or executive approvers who may not necessarily all be in the same location. Uh, you can extend your cash flow. We're going to talk more about the Corpay One MasterCard in a second, but being able to have that additional cash flow and have more control and visibility into your employee spend. And then lastly, being able to submit those documents digitally in a number of different ways to make sure everything is captured and organized into both our system and in QuickBooks Online.
It's almost exciting.
Almost. Sorry to be so underwhelming.
No, but I mean, the picture that's being painted here is like, wow. I mean, I could keep my client in their lane. They do their thing, and keep them out of the book, so to speak. And I can stay in here and really focus on what I need to do, as an accountant or bookkeeper inside of the QuickBooks Online, and then they're able to to do their thing, and then it just comes into the financials the way you would the way you've set it up to do so.
Exactly. Yeah. So definitely a great, additional system to have to sort of layer on top of QuickBooks, to add in some additional functionalities, controls, and visibility, for your team and for the clients as well. So now I wanted to talk about more specifically sort of the pain around manual expense reimbursements. Traditionally, most people know about our bill pay platform, but we also wanted to highlight today the other side of it, which is, again, the expense management side of the platform. So traditionally, we see that inefficient and unnecessarily complex reimbursement processes can lead to making ordinary purchases a pretty tedious hassle for both the employees, the business owners, and the accountants involved. So some of the common, complaints and pain points that we see here is, again, it just being tedious and time consuming, right? So keeping up with all those receipts from the employee perspective, and then whatever that process is in terms of whether it be emailing them, creating a report, and then eventually getting those approved tends to be pretty tedious and time consuming, and can lead to mistakes there. You're also going to have an increased risk of fraud. When you're dealing with employee expense reimbursements, there's always some level of doubt around what was actually purchased, and you can do your best to try to identify what that was, but it just makes it a little bit harder to have that visibility. They can take forever, right? Just the actual reimbursements themselves, we find from that beginning process of making that purchase to actually getting reimbursed, it may be a week or two before a traditional employee can get that reimbursement back. If you lose that receipt, it basically means you don't get a reimbursement, right? And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that. I've been in that position before as well, where either you're just not getting a reimbursement or you're filling out all this extra paperwork to try to prove that it was a legitimate expense. The policies can be either unclear or too restrictive sometimes from the business that makes it hard to get the things you actually need. And then lastly, again, something I can identify with is having to use your own personal card, right, for business expenses. And that employee just may not necessarily have those funds at that particular time, or may not have that to necessarily float until they can get reimbursed a week or two later.
Yeah. You went out there for a second, so I thought we lost you.
Oh, no.
It's like a cliffhanger.
Oh, no.
we
I
got
was
you back. Okay.
I was just saying that, yeah, we also eliminate the need of using personal cards is a pain as well if you don't have that cash there.
Yeah, I can see Landon in the background nodding his head because he just had to do the exact same thing for us. So.
Yeah, we've
He's
all
like,
been,
where's my Corpay MasterCard, please?
we've all been there, man. Trust me. So but like just a personal story. I remember when I first started at Corpay, I was sent on a conference trip like my first week or so, and I didn't have a company credit card at that point. I had to use my own card, and anyone just checked into hotels, you obviously have like your base rate, but then you also have a security deposit, and this was like I think it was the Aria in Vegas, so you can imagine.
Yeah, that is not cheap.
Yeah. So it was not the easiest thing for me to foot that bill.
Sign over your firstborn, and we'll give them back when you
Just
check out.
Yeah, just starting the new job, barely got my first paycheck, and I'm already like footing a couple grand bill for operating room. But yeah, those are just some of the pains, right? And some of the negative effects that can happen are, yeah, we talked about the adverse effects on that employee's personal finances, right? We don't know what that employee's situation is, what they have to pay, if they have those funds or not to be able to float. Um, and that could lead to harming the employee relationship, right? A lot of times people will take that personally, right? Or they
Hmm.
don't necessarily care about me if they didn't get me the money back in a timely manner, right? Um, a lot of people, for some, it'll decrease their productivity, right? Most people aren't necessarily motivated to work when they have a lot of other sort of financial strains,
Hmm.
or it doesn't feel like the company really values them. And it can create financial liabilities, right? Again, if they don't have those personal finances, they may need to go out and get another credit card, or borrow money from others and things like that.
All
So
right.
the Corpay One Mastercard, right? With us, we want to sort of eliminate a lot of those pain points with our Corpay One Mastercard, as well as with our platform that allows you to handle employee expense reimbursements if you choose to do so. So with our card, again, we're going to look to eliminate the need for employee expense reimbursements by giving your company and then allowing you to assign multiple cards out to your employees. With those cards, business owners can set controls and limits around what can be spent in terms of categories and amounts as well. You can also see the spend that's coming in real time, and then be able to capture your receipts and match those to your card transactions, both in Corpay and QuickBooks. There's no annual fee for our card or no fee for additional card holders. And then we offer up to 1.5% cash back in terms of a rebate there, and can get you a line up to about 400K, just depending on business credit, obviously. But now I want to actually go into the actual product and show everyone again how the two-in-one platform works and what sort of the value of having both the bill pay and the card sort of integrated into one.
All right. Let's see it.
All right. So you should still be able to see my screen here now, I believe.
Yep.
All right. And right now we're looking at the Corpay One platform, and I'm logged into one of my client accounts. So I first want to talk through the sort of process of what it looks like to capture documents in Corpay One, and then what the life cycle would look like for a typical business owner or accountant using the platform. So on the document capture side of things, we're going to give you in total 5 different ways that you can submit information into our platform. You can upload a file directly from your computer if you already have it saved or scanned. You can enter a bill manually into our system, basically just creating your own bill. Every client account will have their own unique Corpay One email address. So you'll also be able to forward bills directly into your Corpay One email, as well as receipts. And then we also have a mobile app, as you can see here. This one is actually my favorite method in terms of submission, because it allows you to actually take pictures of any physical bills or receipts that you have in hand. So I mentioned, going out on conference trips. This is exactly what I use personally. When I go buy breakfast at Starbucks, or I go get out of a cab, I already have my Corpay One mobile app out, and all I have to do is snap a picture of that receipt. And as you can see here, with that sync to QuickBooks Online, we're going to have all of your chart of accounts, so your categories, classes, locations, as well as the ability to add in notes in terms of what this is for.
And then that receipt, then does that picture or the image show up in QuickBooks then?
Yeah, exactly. So what we're going to do is we're going to capture the image both in Corpay, but we're also going to sync the image of the document to QuickBooks Online. And we know that some systems don't necessarily do that. There's usually like a two-step process if you want to get the original image attached in QuickBooks. For us, that's going to happen from the very beginning, right? So,
And one of the things that I really like about what Corpay does is the two-way sync, right? So if you create the bill in QuickBooks, so really there's 6 ways to get a bill in
yeah,
in Corpay. You could create the bill inside of QuickBooks, and then it shows up in Corpay to pay. But
yep.
what about if you had the attachment on in QuickBooks? Does it come back to Corpay? I mean,
Yeah.
this may be a more advanced question, but
That's a great question, and you're correct in that as well. So yeah, we do have a two-way sync with QuickBooks Online, and what that means is yeah, any bills that are entered directly into QuickBooks, whether that just be manually or even using a third-party system like a Dex, for example, those can continue to go through QuickBooks, and then we'll pull through the image and the data back into Corpay One to put it through the approval process and payment process as necessary.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think that is differentiator
Yeah.
with Corpay is the two-way synchronization. When Carrie and I, we shopped around at school at not school Scaling New Heights
Yep.
last year for an AP solution for her company, and that was that was a deal breaker, right? It was like, well, we got to live in the AP solution, in order to get all the benefits out of it. You guys don't necessarily require that, right? So you can live in there. You don't have to live in there. Um, there's the two-way synchronization between QuickBooks Online and Corpay is, I think, the one of the best features and functions. Because I live in QuickBooks all the day. So
No, you
so
make a great
it
point.
doesn't require.
Yeah, we have a lot of people who come to us, all different shapes and sizes, right, in terms of what their processes are, or just quite frankly, what their preferences are, right? And for a lot of people, in terms of working with the clients, they like to not necessarily rock the boat if they don't have to, right? So for some accountants, they say, hey, my clients are already in a process of submitting documents directly into QuickBooks. Well, in that case, we want to make the transition easy. We don't want to have to change that if we don't need to. So allow them to keep submitting into QuickBooks, and then we'll just pull it from there into our system, right? Uh, or vice versa. If you have a client who's, let's say, just constantly emailing everything to the accountant, they can keep emailing everything, but now they'll just email directly into the Corpay One address versus the accountant's personal email.
Right.
But yeah, so what happens is once those documents are submitted by the accountant or the client, in one of the few ways that we mentioned, again, we're going to capture the image and extract all the data from it automatically and bring it into that client's inbox. Now, the approval process that each document goes through will be determined by the client or the accountant, depending on who sets this up. But we allow you to create what we call custom workflows, which I can kind of touch on here, that allows you to designate what type of approval processes bills go through. So for example, I'll click into this one really quickly. This allows us to firstly create the trigger in terms of what we're looking for in this rule, and then what action we're going to take based off of the trigger. So in this case, my rule here says, hey, any bill that is greater than $1,000 must be approved by Eric, right? Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But we could, if we wanted to, add additional levels of approval. If this was something that needed multi-levels or multi-layers of approval, I can do that. I could also be more specific in terms of my triggers, in terms of what triggers that approval process. So maybe it's not just any bill over 1,000, but maybe it's a bill over 1,000 that also comes from a particular vendor that goes through this set approval process. So basically any document detail that we can extract or see coming into the system can then be used as a trigger to activate a certain workflow action. That can be an approval process, but that could also be automatic categorization, automatic notes, a number of different things taken in the system.
Yeah, that was one of the things when I first saw the platform. That was, oh, this is like when when Zapier,
Yeah,
had and Bill.com had a baby, right?
yeah, literally. Because yeah, like the Zapier side gives you more of that coding, right? The detail. We know that the other company there has an approval process, but it's just not as detailed, right? And it's not as functional in terms of being able to set this up. And again, going back to the example of nonprofits, one of the most common ones we see is, yeah, basically they have different levels of approval based around certain amounts, right? So hey, if it's over 1,000, one person needs to approve it. But if it's over 10,000, they need the treasurer or the executives to also approve that. And we can sort of designate all those different scenarios to have that automated.
We got a comment or question from somebody watching, Nicole. So you can potentially have a different rule or trigger for each vendor.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great question. So yeah, you would just be able to go down here, select each vendor that applies to that workflow, and then save that. And then yeah, you can continue to add those. There's no restriction around like the number of workflows you can have for the different scenarios.
Yeah, it's like a Pandora's box of automation that you
Yeah,
could really just kind of tap into here.
yeah, it's super powerful. Like I said, number of different things from document details, coworker activity, meaning actions taken on a document, who uploaded a document, right? I have a pretty unique scenario here, like this one, right? Let's say Dan uploads, a document. We want to double check his work. Got to make sure Dan's doing his job right.
No, I always do everything right.
So in this case, I created a workflow that says, hey, if a document is uploaded by one of the following people, Dan, who we don't trust, then Dan's going to have to go through. Dan's going to have to go through 3-level, multi-approval process to make sure Dan's work is correct. All right. But that's just an example of what we can do there on the approval side of things. So yeah, going back to the bill pay again, once it's entered, it'll go through that custom approval process that you or your client designate. And it'll be in the inbox awaiting that approval. Now, we do again sync with QuickBooks Online, so that means all of your chart of accounts will be available here to tag to. So your categories, classes, locations, etc., all that will be available in these drop downs. And as you tag them, everything will sync over into QuickBooks Online.
And it's an active synchronization. So it's not like you have to go and push a button after you do make the change. I mean, I've seen it. It's like almost instantaneous. Where you do something in QuickBooks, it shows up in Corpay. You do something in Corpay, it shows up in QuickBooks.
Yeah, it happens basically within seconds. So yeah, the goal is to keep both those systems constantly in sync and in real time. But yeah, once we've went ahead and reviewed the details of the bill, we've categorized it, etc., the next step is to obviously go ahead and approve the bill. The bill will then either move to the next approval or it'll move to the scheduled section if it's been fully approved. Now in Corpay, we have the ability to either manually pay your bills just by going in and clicking this pay now button, or you can allow us to automatically pay your bills for you. So we can basically look at the due dates of your bills, compare that to the payment method that you use, and come up with a exact date of when we need to initiate your payment to make sure it arrives by that set due date, right?
And that's an awesome way to stretch your cash flow, so that you're still paying on time with your vendor, but you're keeping your money where it needs to be in your bank account for as long as it can.
Exactly. So once that bill has been approved, again, it'll be here in the schedule section. And if you have that ability in terms of it's not a cash flow concern or you're comfortable with the system, I definitely recommend the auto pay. But if not, you can just go in, click the pay now button as you please. You'll see the statuses update as you go. So it'll go from initiated to processing. And then once it's actually paid, it'll move out of this section completely. But during this process, we're also going to be sending your vendor payment notification emails, basically alerting them to say, hey, your payment for bill number 123 is on the way. This is when you can expect your payment. So it makes that communication a bit easier. Again, paid bills will just move here into the paid section. And then the all section is pretty much just like a document archive where you can find all your bills and receipts.
Now, if the vendor, I mean, because ultimately your vendor needs to tell your platform how they would like to be paid, right? I mean, unless you have that information handy, but a lot of times, my vendors give me their bank information.
Yep.
unless I already have a pretty good relationship. But you can send an invitation. Like what happens if you pay something? Say I'm going to use ACH
Mhm.
to pay, but I don't have that ACH information. Do you have to set that up ahead of time,
Yeah,
or can you send the payment and then the customer or the vendor in this case will be like, oh well, I better put in my bank information if I like to get this payment.
great question. So you do need to set it up ahead of time. Now with Corpay One, when you integrate with QuickBooks, we're going to pull through all the vendors that you already have existing in your QuickBooks account. So you don't need to sort of recreate them on our side. Now, once those pull through, you'll notice the method here on the right hand side. Most of them will probably say missing, which basically means it's a new vendor that we've never set up for payment. And there's two ways that payment information can be entered and saved into our platform. So number one is just if you have that vendor's payment information yourself. So for example, if I knew that Acme Trucking liked to be paid via check, for example, I could just go in, click check, enter in their mailing address, and then just save that as a preferred method, right? Same thing goes for ACH or virtual card. If I have those details for the vendor, the client or the accountant can just come right into that vendor profile, enter the details, and save it themselves. Now, if they don't have that information themselves or just not as comfortable entering it, they can actually go down here and click Ask Vendor, which basically would ask you for the vendor's email and allow you to send an email request to the
Mhm.
vendor with a secure link. So they'll get an email that basically says, hey, your client Eric is looking to pay you through Corpay One. Please come in and select your preferred method and enter your details. And they can enter check, ACH, etc., and enter their own banking details.
Got it.
Yeah. Now
All
we can
right.
also do that in bulk if you want to, let's say, request information from multiple vendors if that was more convenient.
Great.
Uh,
All right. So what else you got to show us here? This is very informative.
Yeah, man. So next, we want to look at just some additional details on the bills themselves. This one's one of my favorite features. It's called a timeline. It's basically like an audit trail on every document, right? So once a bill is uploaded into our system, we're going to keep track of any action that's taken, whether it be automated or manual. So from the point that it's uploaded, any changes that are made, any approval process that it goes through, payments, everything is going to have a name and timestamp associated with it. So it makes it very clear there. Your payment tab will essentially be like your payment receipt, giving you all the details associated with that payment, both on your side and the vendor side. Integration will let you know when the document last synced over into QuickBooks. And then chat actually allows you to message your clients or colleagues about bills themselves. So this one's pretty cool because you can sort of tag a specific user and then ask them a question about a particular bill, in which they'll get an email and a mobile app notification to be able to respond to that and hopefully clear up whatever that issue is. But that right there, what we just looked at is everything from the Corpay One bill pay side of things. Again, from the point of uploading and capturing those bills, putting them through that custom approval process, and then actually categorizing them and paying those bills either manually or automatically through our system. So now I want to kind of switch gears and switch over to the second half of the platform, which is more on the expense management side of things. And then we're going to look at the actual Corpay One MasterCard. So just give me 1 second here.
All right. Well, yeah, we want to be conscious of time. So, yeah, I don't know how much time this is gonna take, Eric, to go through these things. But if anybody's watching, and you have to leave, because we try to keep these around a half an hour, and we're already a little bit over. You can book a demo with Eric, and he'll be glad to take as much time as you need to go through that. Or we'll throw a little. QR code there in the upper left. If you just happen to be watching, you want to point your phone at it, you can book a demo with Eric there as well.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Would love to go through a more sort of in-depth demo with any of you all individually. But just as we wrap up, again, with the Corpay One MasterCard, if you wanted to use this for your clients' business expenses and sort of eliminate the employee expense reimbursement process, you would be able to do that with our system. You'd be able to order as many cards as you need to, have them assigned to a different employees. And then if we're looking at the cards themselves, you have the ability to set up different controls around categories you can spend in, amounts, and then how often that resets. And obviously, we're going to be able to see the actual employee spend in real time on these cards themselves.
Now, tell me that. How does it know, right? Like, if they're using their card at, I mean, is that being pulled in from where they're using the card?
Exactly.
Like, what if they needed to order something on Amazon and it actually is in a category that is available
Hmm.
for them to use? I mean, does that kind of cloud things up? I mean, I know if I go to Starbucks, clearly that's meals and
Yeah.
entertainment or something like that. But if I go to Amazon where I could order anything,
Mhm.
right? Like, how does it know that?
Yeah. So great question. I would say, generally speaking, yeah, it's very easy when it's a specific specialized store, right? It falls right into a certain category. We're able to recognize that. With things like Amazon, I would say it would probably err on the side of caution unless the card is set up to, as you can see here, unless it's set up to basically say open to all. If it was set to either one of these three permissions, using Amazon would most likely be declined because it just
Mm.
wouldn't know exactly, what that was for.
So
Um,
when that block happens, what is their how can they, like, hey, I'm really trying to
yeah,
purchase something for travel, or
yeah,
something like that.
and I'm glad you mentioned because that's like probably one of the key benefits of our card. Some of the what we call smart card capabilities compared to some of traditional business cards is, yeah, in the event of anything like that, whether it be a decline or maybe it's the client dinner ended up being a lot more than you originally expected and they need to increase the credit limit, right? These are all things that can be done on the fly. So you can come in, you can see again in real time, hey, this transaction has been declined. Both the user and the account owner would get a notification about that. And then you can go in and say, actually, looks like that was from Amazon. I spoke with Michael. He told me that was a business purchase. So let me go to Michael's card and actually update, his card from traveling expenses to open to all. Right. And I can do that literally for the 5 minutes that allows Michael to make that purchase and then close it right back down to travel expenses without like calling customer service or waiting on hold or anything like that.
Well, that's nice. Now, is there an option to approve the transaction, like at a declined transaction? Are you able to do that, or do you have to just do this, open it up, and let them try it again?
Yeah, you would need to open it up and let it try again.
Okay,
Just because it's a it's a sort of a one time swipe,
got
right?
it.
It's kind of constantly trying to
Right.
process
I mean,
it.
I
So
guess, yeah. It's declined from the vendor, so they couldn't collect the funds, right?
exactly. Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's the Corpay One Mastercard side of things. And again, with the card, the benefit is here having both the bill pay as well as the Corpay One Mastercard and all your expenses inside of this one platform for the client to manage, but also from the accountant's perspective, you're going to have this ability to have multiple clients set up and manage all of their spend in one platform for you as well.
Nice.
Yeah, man. So I'll
What
go ahead.
other areas do you want to show us here? I mean, how much more time do you got here?
I mean that's pretty much it. That I
Okay.
wanted to cover was the bill pay side of things, the employee credit card with us with Corpay One. The third option here when it comes to expense management is we do also offer employee expense reimbursements. So if you just wanted to capture receipts, use your own cards, and then just sort of reimburse employees through the platform, we do allow that as well. Just maybe not as convenient as using the Corpay One Mastercard.
Gotcha. So, I mean, again, just to kind of summarize everything, Corpay One really just is a one size fits all, um, or fits most, I guess I should say. It's never all, right? But it's, for, dipping your feet into the accounts payable pool, or expense management pool, or you're able to, take it at your own pace, or you can have it just doing everything for you when it comes to automating your bill payment process, as well as your expense management for your employees.
Yep.
So thanks, Eric, for joining us here today. I really appreciate you coming on and really giving us a deeper dive look into the Corpay One platform.
Yeah.
And then, one other thing that this is good for end clients, but also for accountants and bookkeepers who are maybe offering this as a part of their suite of services.
Yep.
So it could go either way. Again, you're not tied down by one option, or one option only. It's very flexible.
Exactly. Yeah. So we can work in either one of those capacities, just a matter of preference and sort of structure. But yeah, either one works for us. So excited to work with some of the partners on this call.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining us, Eric, and thank everyone for tuning in today. And next week, we're going to change gears completely, and we're going to talk about how you can accept an accountant invitation from someone in Canada when you work in the United States. So that's totally different than
Yeah.
than Corpay. Eric will not be joining us that day because that is completely outside of his lane. But we look forward to seeing you next week on the Workshop Wednesday.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right. Bye-bye now.